The Mask of the Red Death is about a disease called the Red Death. It has afflicted many, and its afflicted are dead within half an hour. Then we move on to Prince Prospero, who, learning that half of the country is dead, he takes his friends, and they all go into a secluded abbey, which then, once they have all their provisions, is boarded up. So we flash forward to 5 or 6 months later, and he decides to have a masquerade party. Poe decides to stop talking about the masquerade and describe the abbey. It has 7 hallways that are all connected, and each hallway has an outpost that has a window pane. The window pane has corresponding colors to the hallway. So for the first hallway, it is blue. Then there's purple, green, orange, white, violet, and lastly black. Now, the black hallway is the only hallway that doesn't have the same color window pane. Its window pane is described as blood red. Also in this hallway, there is a clock, which is said to make all of the guests pause whenever they hear it, for it instills a sense of fear. Knowing how descriptive this last hallway is, most people avoid this hallway, whereas the rest of the hallways are filled with life. Then we flash back to the masquerade party, and there is a guest who seems to be dressed as the Red Death. This causes Prince Prospero to be angry, and he asks for people to get this man so that he may punish him. Well, whenever someone tries to go near him, they immediately shrink away and don't want to touch him. This causes Prince Prospero to be angered, for the man just keeps continuing to walk past everyone. So this angers him, and he takes a knife from someone and chases after him through every single hallway, ending in the last one. Well, this is when the masquerade man turns on him. And this is where Prospero learns that it is not a guest, but in fact the Red Death itself, which causes him to scream, and he dies. Then the Red Death goes around to every single guest, and every single person in this abbey then dies because of it. It is only when the final guest dies that the clock will finally stop ringing, for the clock can represent life, and once the clock is done ringing, life is over. Now we can move on to the Black Cat. It begins with our narrator telling us that he is going to die and that he's not crazy. So then he goes into telling us that in his childhood he was a kind child who loved animals. Then into adulthood, he married a kind wife who also loved animals, and they had an assortment, including a dog, goldfish, monkey, and a cat. The cat was his favorite animal, he was the only one who would feed it. However, he soon became an alcoholic and would abuse all of his animals except for the cat, until one fateful day when he thought the cat was avoiding him. So he went and found the cat, but scared it into biting him. This caused anger in the man, so he took a knife out and stabbed the cat's eye out. After a while, the cat healed, and he felt guilty for it, but the cat would avoid him whenever he showed up, so the cat would always disappear, which would cause more anger in the man to the point where he had had enough and decided to just hang the cat. That following night, his house burns down. Now, after this, they're without a home, and he's standing next to this building. He decides that he's feeling really guilty for killing this cat. Well, because he is feeling guilty, he takes to this other cat that he sees this day, and he decides to start petting it, and he starts to love it. Well, he asks the man who owns the building if he can buy it from him, but the cat does not belong to the tavern man, so he takes it. So, on his way back, the cat follows him, so he takes it in as his own. The wife also falls in love with this cat. However, there was one similarity between these cats. Though they weren't, this cat had also lost its eye. The only difference between these two cats was that instead of being a completely black cat, it had a front that was white. Now, the eye had caused the man to start to shudder and be scared of, to the point where he would avoid the cat at all times, but the cat would only want affection from him. Now, this had gone on for some time, and they had been able to find a place where they could live in the cellar. Well, the cat came along with him, and at this point, the man was so annoyed with the cat that he decided he was going to kill it. Well, he took an axe from the cellar and tried to attack the cat. The cat started to skitter off, and the wife decided to stop him from killing it, because she also loved this cat. Well, instead of killing the cat, he turns the axe on his wife and kills her. Now, knowing that he had killed someone, he knew he had to get rid of the body. But he couldn't get it in and out of the house because someone would have noticed. But he had also seen in the cellar that someone had boarded up a wall with bricks. But it was crudely boarded up. So he stuffed his wife inside after he had torn it down and then quickly built it back up. Once it was built back up, he looked around for this cat, but it was nowhere to be seen, so he thought he had finally scared it off. Days pass, and the cat is still nowhere to be seen. So eventually police show up, and they question him. But he tells us that he was quite smooth, and they didn't notice a thing. So he thought he was so smooth that he had to start talking. When he talked, he was saying about how sturdy these walls were, and how great of a structure it was. To the point where he takes his cane, and he taps on the side of the wall. Now, this tapping causes a noise to come from the wall, and he doesn't realize it at first, and neither do the police. But then the roaring becomes louder. It's like a howl. And then the police find where it's coming from. They tear down the wall, and they find the wife, who's dead, and the cat sitting on top of her. And this is when the man realizes he had boarded the cat up with his wife on accident, and now he is going to jail and is going to be hung for his crimes.